Richard was a man people noticed before he even said a word. At 6'3", broad-chested, with skin as dark and smooth as polished mahogany, he was the kind of man mothers prayed their daughters would marry. His beard was always neatly trimmed, his teeth perfectly white, and when he smiled, even strangers felt warmth in their chest. But it wasn't just his looks. Richard smelled like money, literally. His perfume was imported, his suits were custom-made, and his cars glistened under the sun. At only 35, he had 2 thriving businesses, a mansion that stood like a fortress at the edge of town, and a reputation as one of the most eloquent men you'd ever hear speak. When Richard opened his mouth, his baritone voice was like music. Women swore they could listen to him forever. Yet despite all his perfection, something didn't add up. Richard had never been in a relationship that lasted longer than a week. People noticed it quickly. A new woman would appear at his side, beautiful, glowing with happiness, and by the 7th day, she was gone, leaving behind unanswered questions and hushed whispers. Some claimed Richard was too proud, that maybe he was controlling behind closed doors. Others said he must have a violent temper. But the strangest rumor of all spread like wildfire, that Richard had a hidden room in his mansion. Some swore the women who left him must have stumbled upon it, seen something terrible inside, and run for their lives. At weddings, aunties would whisper, "He's handsome, yes, but don't you wonder why no woman lasts more than a week in his house?" Fathers shook their heads and said, "A man can be rich and good-looking, but if women keep leaving, something is wrong." Richard pretended not to hear. He wore his pain behind a smile, arriving at parties in expensive suits and luxury cars. But inside, he was drowning. Every time a relationship ended, he lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, asking the same question, "Why me? Why can't I hold on to love?" He knew the truth, but it was too shameful to admit. His manhood refused to rise. No matter how much a woman touched, kissed, or begged, nothing happened. And so, every woman left, disappointed, embarrassed, sometimes even angry. The world thought Richard had it all. But inside his mansion, he was a man trapped in silence, haunted by a secret he could not share. And the whispers about the mysterious secret room only grew louder. The cycle became predictable. Richard would meet a woman, sweep her off her feet with flowers, dinners, and gifts. For 6 days, she would glow with excitement, posting pictures of luxury cars and exotic meals, thinking she had found her prince. But by the 7th day, she left. Emily, a lawyer, was the first. She adored him. On their 2nd night together, she leaned into him, expecting passion. But his body betrayed him. She thought it was stress, comforted him, and said, "It happens sometimes. Don't worry." But by the 4th night, when it happened again, her patience broke. On the 6th night, when Richard tried once more and failed, she burst into tears. On the 7th day, she packed her bags. Before leaving, she whispered words that cut deeper than a knife, "So you're not a man after all." Those words stayed with Richard long after she left. Then came Amanda, a nurse. When the same thing happened, she tried to encourage him, suggesting herbs, exercise, and even medical tests. But by the 7th day, she too walked away, unable to hide her disappointment. Sarah, a banker, was less kind. On their last night, she pushed him away in frustration. "You look like a king on the outside, but inside you're nothing," she spat. Each insult carved scars into Richard's heart. But worse than the insult was the gossip. In bars and salons, women laughed cruelly. "He looks like a lion, but he can't roar." Others shook their heads. A man like that, with all his wealth and beauty, and yet they left the sentence hanging, but everyone knew what they meant. And still, the rumor about the secret room persisted. Maybe the women saw something strange in his house, people said. Why else would they leave so suddenly, and refuse to speak about it? Richard's mansion became a place of mystery. Some swore they saw lights flickering in the windows at midnight. Others claimed they heard whispers when they passed by. But Richard never confirmed nor denied anything. He simply smiled, pretending everything was fine. But inside, he was breaking. Richard's troubles weren't only from women and gossiping strangers, his family had begun to notice too. For years, his mother had been patient, waiting for her son to settle down. What is stopping him? He is wealthy and handsome. One fateful morning, Richard was sleeping after a restless night when his phone buzzed loudly on the nightstand. It was his mother. He answered groggily, "Good morning, Mom." "Good morning." "Richard, do you even know what time it is?" she snapped. "Your cousin Philip is getting married in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Richard. He is younger than you. What are you waiting for?" Richard rubbed his eyes, groaning silently. His mother continued, her voice rising. "Do you want to shame me before my friends? Everyone asks me when my handsome son will bring home a wife. Do you know the kind of embarrassment I face?" Richard remained silent. What could he say? That no matter how hard he tried, women left him in 7 days. That behind his polished looks was a humiliating secret. He couldn't. So he muttered, "Mom, don't worry. My time will come." "Your time," his mother scoffed. "Richard, time is passing you by. Do you want me to die before carrying my grandchildren?" She hung up, leaving him staring helplessly at the ceiling. The pressure didn't stop there. Later that week, his aunt cornered him at a family gathering. "Richard, with all your money, cars, and fine looks, why are you still single? Is something wrong? Or are the rumors true?" Her eyes gleamed with suspicion. Richard forced a smile, brushing it off, but the words cut deep. The whispers about the secret room had even reached his own relatives. That evening, his younger sister Clara also confronted him gently. "Brother, people are beginning to talk. Mom is worried. Why won't you just choose someone?" He snapped without meaning to. "Do you think it's that simple, Clara? Do you think I haven't tried?" His voice cracked, and she froze, realizing she had touched a wound she couldn't understand. Alone in his mansion that night, Richard poured himself a glass of wine and sat in silence. He thought about his cousin's wedding, about his mother's sharp words, about the endless whispers. He imagined showing up alone, standing among relatives who would smile politely but gossip behind his back. "Handsome Richard," they would say. "The perfect gentleman. Yet no woman stays with him. Something is wrong." The thought made his chest tighten. He slammed the wine glass onto the table and buried his face in his hands. The weight of family expectations pressed down on him harder than ever before. And for the first time, Richard wondered if he should just give up on love altogether. But deep down, he knew he couldn't. He wanted to be free, not just for himself, but for his mother, for his family, and for the little boy inside him who still dreamed of being a husband and a father. The pressure was becoming unbearable, and Richard was running out of time. By now, Richard avoided gatherings. Weddings, engagements, family meetings, he stopped attending them. Everywhere he went, people asked the same question, "Richard, when will it be your turn?" He would laugh, hiding his shame, but inside, those words tore him apart. At home, the silence was unbearable. His mansion, though luxurious, felt like a prison. At night, he lay in his massive bed, his thoughts heavy. Sometimes, he stared at his reflection in the mirror and whispered, "Am I really a man?" Then he met Clara, a school teacher. She was gentle, humble, and seemed different from the others. Richard hoped, desperately, that things would be better this time. He treated her like a queen, showered her with gifts, and held her close. For a moment he thought if he could be with her for a few months without any form of intimacy and then marry her. That way the problem would be solved. But he knew that would be the highest form of deceit and he could not go through with it. As time went on, Clara pushed for intimacy and he had no choice than to give in, but then again his body failed him. Clara was gentle. "It's okay. Love is more than this," she said. For a moment, Richard believed her. But as the days went on and nothing changed, her smile faded. By the 14th day, she couldn't hide her sadness. She left. At least this relationship lasted 2 weeks. Richard broke down. He smashed glasses, threw bottles against the wall, and screamed until his voice cracked. Why me? Why can't I be like other men? That night, he cried until his pillow was soaked with tears. The next morning, he put on his best suit, sprayed his expensive cologne, and stepped out with a smile. People saw the perfect gentleman. No one saw the broken man behind the mask. But the burden of shame grew heavier each day. One evening, his childhood friend Daniel came to visit. Daniel had known Richard since they were boys, and he was the only one brave enough to speak the truth. Richard, Daniel said, staring at him. I know something is wrong. You can fool the world, but not me. What's eating you alive? For the first time, Richard opened up. His voice trembled as he confessed everything, the failed attempts, the insults, the endless goodbyes. When he finished, Daniel sat in silence, stunned. This isn't ordinary, Daniel finally said. You've tried doctors, medicines, everything. Richard, this might be spiritual. Richard resisted at first. He didn't want to believe it. But the more he thought about it, the more sense it made. Why else would a man who had everything be cursed with the one thing that completed him as a man? Daniel told him about an old spiritual healer, a man known to see beyond the physical. At first, Richard refused. His pride couldn't let him bow before such a man. But desperation broke him. When they finally met the healer, the old man listened quietly, then shook his head slowly. This is no sickness, he said. This is a chain placed upon you long ago. A jealous hand tied your manhood so you will never find joy in a woman's arms. Richard's blood ran cold. Who would do such a thing to me, he whispered. The old man smiled sadly. The question is not who. The question is, are you ready to pay the price to break free? Richard couldn't sleep for days after meeting the healer. Are you ready to pay the price? The words echoed in his mind. He had always believed money could solve anything. But here was a battle no amount of wealth could fix. The healer explained the price: 40 days of fasting, prayer, and humility. No perfumes, no luxury meals, no women, no alcohol. Just plain food, water, silence, and surrender. It was the hardest thing Richard had ever heard. His entire life had been built on pride, on appearance, on wealth. Could he strip it all away? For the first time in his life, Richard dropped to his knees. Tears rolled down his face as he whispered, I am tired of being perfect on the outside and broken within. I want freedom, no matter the cost. The 40 days tested him beyond imagination. Alone in his mansion, he ignored calls, business meetings, and parties. Every day, he prayed and wept. Memories of Emily's insult, Sarah's harsh words, and Clara's disappointed face haunted him. Sometimes, he wanted to give up. But the healer visited, reminding him that freedom was near. On the final night, Richard dreamt of a dark figure holding heavy chains around his waist. In the dream, he cried out, and the chains shattered with a deafening crash. When he woke up, sweat drenched his body, but he felt lighter, freer. A week later, Richard met Evelyn, a gentle woman with eyes full of kindness. She was not like the others, there was something calm and reassuring about her presence. Still, Richard was afraid. The scars of his past failures weighed heavily on him, and though he longed to hold her fully, he could not bring himself to try. For the first 2 weeks, he avoided intimacy. Every time Evelyn leaned closer, every time her hands lingered on his, he found an excuse. I have an early meeting tomorrow, he would say. Or, I'm just tired tonight. Evelyn never pushed, instead, she smiled softly, as though she understood his unspoken fears. But fear could only keep him prisoner for so long. After nearly a month of hiding behind excuses, Richard knew he had to face it. One evening, heart pounding and palm sweating, he finally let go of his fear and allowed himself to be vulnerable with her. And then it happened. His body responded. For the first time in his life, the heavy chain that had bound him seemed to shatter. In that moment, Richard felt whole. Tears streamed down his face as he held Evelyn close, whispering, thank you, the curse was broken. When news of his engagement spread, the rumors about the secret room vanished. People celebrated, but only Richard knew the true story, that behind his perfect looks had been a secret pain, and behind his freedom was a heavy price. And so Richard's life became a lesson. No matter how perfect someone looks on the outside, everyone carries a hidden battle. But victory comes when pride is broken and the price of freedom is paid. Please subscribe if you are yet to. I hope you enjoyed the story. The only way you can say thank you is by subscribing. That will encourage me to push out more interesting stories. Turn on the post notification bell so you do not miss out on any of the juicy stories that are upcoming.